Hey friends, I'm Christy and you're listening to Rock the Damn Boat. If you've ever bitten your tongue to keep the peace or said yes when every part of you wanted to say no, this one's for you. We're diving into the messy, real stuff that people pleasers like me have spent years avoiding. It's time to have the hard conversations, shake things up, and learn to stand tall even when it makes waves. And while we might be embodying boat rocking energy here on this podcast, I am also a firm believer in wellness and mindfulness practices, which is why I am launching a membership that is Rock the Damn Boat meets the Rooted Soul, and I want you to be one of the founding members. I am offering a special introductory rate right now. You go to thrivewithchristy.com to learn more about the Thrive Collective, and I hope to see you there in the community. Now, speaking of community, being part of the podcast community has unlocked new connections and new conversations with some amazing women. We're embarking on a series of interviews with other podcasters. So if this has been on your heart or something that you've been interested in doing yourself, then you can learn about the journeys of the women who have gone before us. I want it to inspire you to have your own boat rocking moment. And if that is starting a podcast, then I encourage you to listen to the next few episodes. Make sure you follow and subscribe and even hit the notification bell so that you don't miss a single episode. And if you are interested in diving deeper into the work that it takes to unlock your voice, that is what my Thrive program is all about. So you'll find it both in the new community that's launching and in the in-depth cohort that starts on May 6th. If you have any questions about that, please reach out to me. Otherwise, let's tune into the conversation. I am overjoyed by my guest today because we'll get into all of the different ways that our lives have intertwined, but in this month of May, I am celebrating 8 years sober. And when I published my sobriety memoir, Carr had her podcast. She's a podcaster, How I Quit Alcohol. I reached out to her. I was her first international guest. Danni is in Australia. She is a sober coach, a podcaster, a retreat host, and author. Words can't express how much I've enjoyed our friendship and getting to know each other and getting to spend some time with you in Bali. So welcome to the show, Danni.
Hello, it's so good to be here. It's so nice to be asked, and congratulations on your 8 years. That's so awesome. Very exciting.
Yes, thank you. I always forget that we're pretty close in terms of milestones, and so yeah, May 12th for me, and I wanted to fill May with women who have been a part of that journey in some way and been a role model for me. And yeah, just coming on your show when I was newly writing my memoir and going, kind of doing some press for that and really embracing that part of my life and my journey was so special. So you are still podcasting today. How long has How I Quit Alcohol been running?
My God, I don't know, but I'm up to almost about to hit 365 episodes. And I always said, Christy, I'll stop then because it will give people one episode for every day of the year. But I'm getting there now and kind of like, should I keep going? Should I stop? Have people had enough of me? I don't know, but I'm kind of still enjoying it mostly, so I guess I'll keep it going. But I think it started, I don't even know. It started 2022, I think it was.
That's
so
incredible.
It's been going for a long time. Yeah.
That's amazing. And that's the important part. Like you said, you still enjoy it. I'm like at 6 months, but I love it. I love the conversations I have. I love the women I'm meeting. And I'm sure you feel the same way with how many meaningful conversations you've had and different people in the sober space and beyond. So
Yeah, it's super exciting. And it, like, say, when I had you on, I'd never had an American person on the podcast before. I've since had other American people on, which has been great. But you were definitely my first American or international guest, as you said, on the podcast. And I was like, how's this going to be received? But then everyone loved it. It was really great. It really kind of opened me up as well to kind of go, we don't have to keep this just Australian, broaden your horizons, Danny. So thank you as well for that, for coming on and opening up my heart a little more.
I am just remembering now that someone messaged me on Instagram after hearing me on your show, and she was in my area. So I remember texting you a little
Wow.
screenshot of someone that was in Fort Worth and said, "I heard you on the show." And we were like, "Okay, that did what that had the
That's
reach that
awesome.
we had hoped it would."
That's
And yes, the time zone can certainly be a challenge. We're recording my end of my day, beginning of yours.
yeah.
Tell us a little bit about what you do as a sober coach. So that's sort of how you started with How I Quit Alcohol. So tell my
Mhm.
listeners a little bit about that.
Oh my gosh. Well, that's such a big part of this journey, which I never saw coming. Absolutely not. Even when I first started the podcast, I was probably podcasting for a good year before I decided to do any kind of coaching. I think some people started reaching out to me and I was like, oh, I don't know, I can't do that. And it kind of started and grew from there and has become quite the beast. And since then, so much study. I studied with Gabor Maté, compassionate inquiry, and I've done yoga teacher training and meditation training and counseling certification as well. Just so many different ways in which it's sort of grown out into a big chunk of my time. And it's a great job to be able to help people navigate sobriety. I probably enjoy more now people that are a bit more post sobriety, that have been sober for a little while. And my jam really more now is about teaching people how to regulate their nervous system. And I think that's kind of what underpins the whole thing really anyway. But it's obviously still I run courses and things like that to bring people into the space. And then hopefully we keep them there long enough to stay sober and then learn some really good handy tools to help to support themselves throughout the journey. It's just such a big process, the quitting alcohol. I mean, you've got the quitting alcohol and then there's everything else that comes along with it. It's all the self-study and the learning about yourself, the learning how to regulate, and it's just never ending. I think it opens up so many doors. And that's the thing when we're drinking, I don't know about you, but when I was drinking all the time, life was so small. It was just based around getting trashed, getting through that next day or two sometimes of recovery, of getting over that and then going again or having a few days sober. But it was all really revolved around that. And life was so small. And now life feels so big. Like it's like there's not enough hours in
Yes.
the day for all the practices and all the different things. And it just feels so alive. And 8 years down the track is just more and more and more. The first year's hard, of course, as you know, but then it just grows and we grow along with it. And I think that's the key as well with sobriety, is making alcohol a very small component, which sounds ridiculous, but alcohol almost becoming an afterthought. Thinking more about the person you want to become and the
Yes.
vision that you see for yourself, and then moving towards that. And alcohol's just a small part of getting rid of that little band-aid.
I've enjoyed watching your evolution of, yes, it started out very much sober coaching and you having a program and a format that was different than people have sort of the traditional paths and 12 step and things like that. I remember noticing you at the time because there were fewer alternatives to
Mm,
12 step. And I think
yeah.
that now there's a lot of different paths people can take. Now, 12 step is how I first started and got sober. And I ended up getting involved with more of a creative sobriety group. We were all from different paths and programs,
Mhm,
but
mhm,
united by creativity. And I love that you have a way for people who may be resistant to 12 step or other
mm.
things that they've tried and haven't worked. But then to watch you step into more of that mindfulness space. And of course, I got to join you in Bali, and I can't believe
Mm.
it's been 2 years now. There's parts of it
Oh,
that feel like so fresh in my mind, like it was yesterday, and then there's
yeah.
parts of like, of course, it's been long enough. I really miss it, and I can't wait to come retreat with you
Yeah,
again. But
yeah.
Yeah. So you started doing retreats and getting involved. So you did the 1 year compassionate inquiry study, right? You
Yeah.
touched on that, but tell us a
Yep.
little more about that.
Oh, wow. That was amazing. That was really pivotal for me in my growth, I think, doing that course with Gabor. And also just mainly just for learning about myself and really understanding the triggers, the things that really triggered me the most. And I always thought that I drank perhaps just because, just to be fun, to be the life of the party. But there was so much more underlying that course, the Compassionate Inquiry, helped me understand it and get to that and to get to those core wounds that perhaps were driving a lot of the triggers. I was lucky enough to have a couple of one-on-ones with Gabor as well. My dad's cancer had returned and I was coaching at the time. He'd been in remission for quite a while and we're really, really close. He's definitely my person. His cancer had returned. My mum, who's also a addict, her drug addiction had gone spiraling again. And I had this knot in my stomach all the time, just this knot. And I had it a lot as well before I quit drinking. So this knot was back. It was bad, Christy. It was like almost making me double over, just
Mm.
in pain, like in my stomach. And I remember saying to Gabor, "Oh, look, I've got to get rid of this knot in my stomach. It's like, I do breathing and I do yoga and I walk on the beach and I meditate and I do all the things, but this knot is still there." And he said to me, "Why are you trying to get rid of a part of yourself? It's just trying to teach you something." And my mind just was blown. And I just sat there and it almost brings me to tears. And, so then, of course, he talks because he's quite somatic in his approach and talking about when the body is presenting with something, it's just trying to let you know that something's up. So from there, I got to really learn to connect with my body and to just be with. So rather than get rid of, to actually be with what was present for me and get curious about it. So he said, let's just shine a light on it for a bit. Let's just be with it and let's see what happens. But don't expect it to go. Don't try and get rid of it. Just be with the sadness, be with it and shine a light there. And so I did that. And funny, then we got talking about other stuff. And I realized later that the pain had gone in my stomach and it didn't come back. And when it does come back from time to time, it's usually because something's happening and I'm able to sit and be with it. And before, when I was drinking all the time, I would have tried to drink that away. But now I'm like, oh, I just have to be tender with myself. And that's what that course really helped me with as well. So understanding the core of the wounds and then to be able to be with whatever's present in my body. And so I can show up and really connect now in a way that I never could before. Like I could not. I was always trying to distract myself with things with work or study but now, things hurt. We live life and people hurt us sometimes or we hurt other people or we feel shame. And when we can just sit and be with that in our own body and just breathe into it and allow it to be there, ask it what's happening. It's transformed my life. I can't even tell you, like, just amazing. So that's it in a nutshell. He did say one other thing. He said, oh, and just before you go, he said, you said that your dad's cancer's back and your mum's drug taking has escalated. I was like, yeah. And he said, stop wasting any more of your energy trying to make her wrong. She's just soothing herself the only way she knows how. And that is another moment. I've got goosebumps just saying that as well, just remembering that. And also, that's what we're doing, aren't we? When we're actively addicted to anything, whether it's alcohol, drugs, pokies, sex, whatever it is, we're probably just trying to soothe ourselves the only way that we know how. So understanding
Yes.
that was big. Yeah.
Yeah. I'm so grateful that you took that time with him and now you're infusing
Yeah.
that into how you teach.
Yeah.
I I was listening to a book today and it's so timely what you're saying. It was talking about the ache and the author was talking about this ache that you always have and we're always trying to bypass that ache. And that
Mm,
she was talking in the context of, I think she was talking as a pastor or someone. We look for all these ways to make it go away when really it's learning how to understand what it's trying to teach us. And
yeah.
I'm definitely, going through that. I think back to when we were in Bali and we talked a lot about window of tolerance.
Mm,
And so
mm-hmm.
I feel like right now I'm 50. I'm
Mm.
going through it as it relates to hormones,
Mhm.
and I left my corporate job last fall to figure out what I want to do on my own
Yeah.
creatively, creative
Mhm.
entrepreneurship. And I feel like my window of tolerance has shrunk quite a bit. So I'm going back to all of these things, like you're saying, just Kundalini yoga is always
Yeah.
really helpful for me because I need to move my body and get that movement in. And
Yeah.
um, I love yoga nidra for body scan and that, but like
Mm.
for me, like Kundalini is kind of like the shaking it out, and it's like you get it, get it going in your body. Those practices are so important because I think that yes, when you're active with alcohol and you're trying to soothe that voice in your head and all of
Mm.
that overthinking that you're doing, and it's like, okay, just get out of there.
Yeah. 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 We have to sort of get Luke Snusky was one of my teachers in the Gabor course, Dr. Luke, and he's also written an incredible book called Soma Wise, Get Out of Your Head and Into Your Body, which is
Mm.
great. His book, Soma Wise, is probably one of the best ones I've found on addiction and kind of connecting that with the body, the mind-body connection as well. It's a brilliant book. What's the book called that you're reading? Just curious, because
Oh,
I'm always up for reading new books that I'm hearing
I
about.
know. Joyful Anyway. So, Kate Bowler is the author, and she went through cancer, was diagnosed stage 4 cancer,
Mm,
and is in full remission now. And I'm just getting into it, but
mm,
her talking about this ache
yeah.
resonates so much because I feel like I'm at that point right now where I can't put my finger on what this and if I go way back to 12-step lingo, we talk about being restless, irritable, and discontent. And I'm like, yeah, and it's
Right.
all, of our own making. How do we sit with that and get
It,
comfortable with it and explore
yeah.
those wounds, like you said? I start with a therapist later this week who is specializes in somatic experiencing and EMDR. When I wrote my sobriety memoir, I started writing in 2020, finished and published it in 2021, but about 6 months into the writing process, I stopped and worked with a somatic experiencing coach for, I think she had a 12-week program. So I worked with her for 12 weeks because everything that was coming up that I was writing about on the page, things that had happened, I had to process those through my body.
Mm,
We did a lot of work in present day too. So yes, there were
mm,
things that you can revisit the past and process that trauma, but then there's also just ways that you learn to manage day to day that then
mm.
to keep you sober, because that's what's important. You've gotten sober and how you have to learn.
Yeah. And if we learn to read the signals that the body's giving us, then perhaps we don't need to reach for something outside of ourselves. And I think that's the key when mostly if someone's craving, if you get to the point where you're craving alcohol or really anything, it's worth then checking with the body and just if you have the ability to just take a moment to pause and go inward a moment, and you might feel the kind of rushing in the chest or that burning feeling, or for me it's a knot in the stomach, or perhaps it's in the jaw, but just noticing where that is and allowing that to be there and trying to get into contact with that. And does it need to move? Does it need to cry? Does it need to journal something out? And then just see how you go after that. But taking that minute just to connect, because we're so used to now not connecting with our bodies, we're so distracted. There's so many distractions. And
So
also
many.
depending on our childhoods, our upbringings, our attachment style. So I just find being on my yoga mat is the place where I can reconnect with my body. And my yoga is very slow, very hatha, bringing it all down because I'm rushing usually all the time. So all my practice is about slowing down, and having a addicted parent, that kind of disorganized attachment. So I'd be prone to injuring myself all the time and not being present in my body. Couldn't meditate to save myself. So now being able to be on my mat, and even if I'm doing cat cow or just a bit of child's pose perhaps, is the key. And that may be all I do in that day. But if I am
Yes.
craving or starting to spill outside of myself, I don't know if you've experienced that, where you start to, everything's out. So bring it back home just for a bit. And I always make much better choices when I'm regulated. But if I make the choices when I'm spilling out of myself and I'm all, "Wah," it never ends well. Like, it just doesn't end well. I usually become such an asshole and just make choices that I regret. It's not drinking anymore, but definitely was before. But it could be anything, Christy, just so, yeah, just that being kind to ourselves, but coming back home as much as we can is pretty transformative, that's for sure. Can I just add something to something you
Yes.
said before?
Yeah.
There's a book worth listening to probably at the moment for women that is our age. I just turned 49. As you said, you're 50, and we're probably experiencing some pretty big stuff going on in our bodies. Slowing down now at our age as well is really important, rather than being out and putting all of our energy out, and just finding that balance with the energy. And there's a book called The Rushing Woman Syndrome. I don't know if you've heard of that.
Wow, I have not, but that sounds about like the last few months for me, so I can learn from this.
Yeah, Dr. Libby Weaver is the author, and it's all about how this time, hundreds of years ago, the women of our age now would be kind of retreating a bit more and tending to the family and going into the caves, perhaps, we're not kind of designed to be go, 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 do, do, do. This time is a bit more of reflection and going a bit more inward, so slowing down, and which of course is really hard in today's society. But even
Yes.
if it is just getting on your mat and going into child's pose for a bit each day and just coming home rather than having all that energy out there all the time, and that can really help to alleviate some of those perimenopause symptoms as well. It's a great book, definitely worth reading. I think every woman that's our age or heading towards that way, and husbands as well, should be reading it. Like, everyone should probably read this book.
I definitely send my husband a reel or two every week
Yeah.
about something that can help him understand the Holderness family here in the States. They've put out content for a long time, and now that they're our age, they're talking more about her journey through perimenopause and late diagnosed ADHD and all of these things that are so relatable right now. And because her husband is a part of it, then there's a lot done from his perspective. So I always send my husband like, okay, see, I'm not,
Good
no,
idea.
this is
Yeah.
not a weird behavior. This is normal for women my age.
Yeah. Oh,
Like,
totally.
I
And you
need
can
my
see,
space. No, I need to be cuddled. No, I need my
yes,
space.
I know, it's crazy, isn't it? And it feels so crazy
Yes.
making. But I tell you what, I couldn't imagine being in this part of my life and still drinking, because how the hell do you manage everything that's showing up, and then
Oh
plus
my
hangovers and that
gosh.
dysregulation as well? Like, not to sound preachy or holier than thou at all, but so many women are drinking because they feel so terrible and they're wanting to
Yes.
escape, of course, because it feels rotten. But yeah, there is definitely a much better way and a much more easeful way of doing it.
I always think the same thing because I
Mm,
was just about to turn 43 when I got sober, and now I would definitely be in terrible shape if I had kept drinking, because not only was I blacking out all the times, it felt so unhealthy and I had gut
yeah.
issues and all of these things happening in my body. But to be trying to go through this, I don't think that I would be here if I were going
Mm,
through this in
wow.
active alcohol addiction and perimenopause and menopause, because it's been a really tough time when it comes. And
Yeah.
I've talked on the pod multiple times about mental health, and we've
Yeah.
had a hormone series, so we're talking about all these things. I'm sure it's true for Australia also, but this age range is the
Yeah.
highest suicide rate among women. And
And
so it's
divorce
just
rate, suicide and
mm,
divorce. Yeah. And you can see why,
yeah.
because their husbands shit us to
Yes.
death and we want to stab them a few times a month. But it's sad, isn't it? When you read those stats, it's like, wow. And then, gosh, I cannot imagine that added complexity of having to be detoxing the liver all the time when it's already, feeling so shit anyway. So,
Yeah.
even if it's just to make that choice to just be so kind to yourself throughout this stage of life and to give yourself a bit of a break and a bit of a breather, it's so worth taking the time off alcohol just to see what lays
And it is
beneath. And
never too late. Anyone who
no,
listens to my show or your show, or it doesn't matter if you're 50 and you're deciding that you want to make this choice now. You have such a long time ahead of you that you could have a clear head, well, at least clear from alcohol, maybe not clear from hormones, but
yeah, that's right. Yeah,
certainly taking that out of the mix could be so beneficial. I love that people always say that I'm aging in reverse. So there's a benefit
You gotta
to
love
cutting the
that.
booze out of life. So
Yeah. I just did an
uh,
episode, it just went out yesterday, with a lady from the States named Cindy. She's done my course. She's one of my grads. And she quit when she was 60. And so she's amazing. And she was drinking beer every morning instead of coffee. She's managed to just turn her life around. And she's incredible, like always showing up. When she joined in on my course, it was 2:30 in the morning for her when we were all doing our 7:30 evening call. And usually when people join from the States, they watch afterwards. And
mm,
she would show up 2:30 in the morning.
wow.
She was that much wanted the community and that much wanted to get rid of this shit. And she's just incredible lady. But yeah, never too late. Absolutely never too late.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I want to talk a little bit about your book. And you and your husband, Ash, co-wrote the
Yeah.
book, right? Or put it out
Yeah.
together. So tell
We
us a
co-wrote the
little
book.
bit about that process and
Oh,
what that was
geez.
like birthing
Yeah.
a book, because I know it's amazing.
The book was something that we'd been working on, and I kind of felt like it was a bit of a necessity to get out a book. And Ash had written a book before called Surf by Day, Jam by Night, where he had interviewed. It was interesting, actually. That it was their first year of sobriety, and he was asked to write this book by a publishing house. So he surfs, and he's a well-known musician in Australia, Ash. And his whole thing was interviewing people who surfed and played music and did either professionally. So he's interviewing like Kelly Slater and Jack Johnson and the people, Steph Gilmore and people who were pretty big
Right.
hitters. And he found the common thread, and he kind of they say that you write the book that you need to hear for yourself. And he found that the people that he was interviewing, they either didn't drink at all or they didn't drink much. Ash and I were both doing our first year of sobriety, but coming out of being serious trash bags, blacking out all the time. So he interviewed these people and he found that this is really interesting. Like, they don't drink. And one thing Kelly Slater said to him when Ash asked him about alcohol, he said, "Oh, I don't drink. That would just get in the way of my goals. Like, no way. Like, just not even an option for him, because he's so busy thinking about what he wants, like about his comps or visualizing that. And there's just no room for alcohol." And so Ash started to
Right.
apply that as well. And so he'd had the experience of writing, it was like from blog posts that we'd done. And so it was a little bit about our own histories and then just about how we got sober and the things that we did. I don't think we were reinventing the wheel at all in our book.
Well, it's nice to have that resource if
Yeah,
not everyone can jump on a call at 2:30 in the morning or is looking for
yeah,
something different, because I think
yeah,
that's where going back to there's a lot of different paths, and the one program is not going to work for everybody, and so maybe
yeah.
it's going to reach someone who might be looking for a different way than what they've tried.
Yeah, and it was interesting because we talk a lot. Well, Ash talked about his experience in the music industry and the different situations he'd end up in and being so drunk. And then mine was about growing up in the country. And so from our different kind of backgrounds, he grew up in a teetotaling family that all played soccer,
Wow.
and I grew up in a big drinking culture, but we both kind of ended up in the same place. And that was interesting. And yeah, and just how we navigated our way through all that.
So for him, I mean, that's being in the music industry, and that just, I'm sure, is such a big part of the culture. But I've watched you both just thrive in sobriety. You guys are partnering so much on things too. I think that's what's really cool. For him, how has
Yeah.
that really changed his
Oh my
career
God.
and his trajectory?
Unbelievably so, because Ash had, so we've been together for nearly 30 years now. But when we first got together, his career went it took a few years, but then it kind of exploded here in Australia. And he was doing really well, playing big stages and playing to a lot of people. So it took him a fair while to get there. And then he was up there for quite a while. And then things started to decline. And so as things started to decline, I'm talking about audience numbers and things like that, he was drinking more as well. So you don't know if it's the chicken or the egg, but it got to
Hmm.
the point where by the end he was quite bloated, he was drinking way too much, his mindset had just gone to shit, and so had the audience numbers. In fact, he was playing in venues where previously he'd sold out the venue, sometimes 2 nights in a row, to lucky to get 30 people in the crowd. And it was pretty humbling experience for him, but he felt awful. And so part of the taking the year off alcohol, there was many reasons that got him there. But one thing was just the big driver was about kind of getting himself back mentally into good mental shape.
Oh.
So we decided to take the year off drinking. That was a pact that we'd made with some other musicians. We'd take a year off drinking together. And because a few of us were pretty out of control, I kind of wanted to quit drinking because our relationship, as you can imagine, at this point wasn't in good shape either. And I was on realestate.com all the time looking for houses, thinking I need to get out of this. Not he wasn't abusive or anything. He's a very kind, gentle person, but we were just stuck. We're just in a shit place. And so I wanted to take the year off because of that. We started to get into this year off alcohol and things were starting to shift. Our mindsets were shifting. We were doing a lot of gratitude practice. He was replacing the nights where he'd be drinking with just scales, up and down scales on his guitar. And he was playing so much guitar and so much vocal work. And it was pretty awesome. And things just started happening for him. Like things started presenting again. Like he got a new record deal from Mushroom Records and things just started happening. And he would literally say the name of a musician and they'd be in contact 2 weeks later.
Wow.
And it was just bizarre. It was wild. And I said to him one day, look, Ash, rather than focus on the people that aren't at the show, just focus on the people that are there, be grateful for them and start manifesting what you want. So I said to him, what do you really want? Like, what would you love more than anything? And he said, I would love more than anything to sell out the Forum. It's a big, beautiful theatre in Melbourne. It's called the Forum Theatre. I said, let's put it in the calendar. And he was like, oh, as if that's ever going to happen. That's never going to happen. And I was like, let's manifest. Let's just put it in. Let's work towards it. Even if you don't get there, like it'll be a cool journey trying to get there. So we did. We put it in the calendar for, I think it was 2 years' time or 3 years' time from then. In the calendar, I wrote it down, Ash at the Forum Theatre, sold out, right? And it was in February. It was February the 18th, I think was the date we put it in for. And he just thought that was ridiculous. But I said, let's just go for it. He gets offered to do a record with Josh Teskey from the Teskey Brothers not long after that. So he and Josh did this incredible album. So with the record company, once he and Josh had done this album, they were talking about the tour for the album. And would you believe it? The February that year, guess where they were slotted to play? The Forum in Melbourne. And it sold out. Can you believe it? It was just like, it happened. It took a few years to get there, but it's just such an amazing story. And I remember that night, I was like standing backstage and during the sound check, I said, Ash, you did it. You did it. You're here. It's sold out. You're at the Forum. We couldn't believe it. Like, just couldn't believe it. And of course he goes, oh, it's only because Josh is on the bill. I'm like, hey, you're still here. It doesn't matter how you got here. Sometimes it doesn't always look how you think. So
yes,
that's a very long answer into it absolutely transformed everything for him. And if he had have kept drinking, there's no way. There's no way we'd be together. There's no way his career would be in the shape it's in now. We still pinch ourselves. Like, how the hell did that happen?
Right, because for you, it led to a whole new chapter for you and coaching on how to quit alcohol. What a beautiful story. And I'm going to take a page out of your book and stick something out in my calendar because I do vision boards. And I do certainly think that you put that idea out there and you take the action that gets you there. What an incredible manifestation for him
unbelievable.
and for the two of you.
But this whole life, I run about 5 or 6 retreats a year. I just ran one in Byron and I think there was nearly 30 people on the retreat. And I had one of my favourite yoga teachers there. His name's Colin Laird. He's a Scottish guy from Australia, beautiful. And his wife was also there doing gong baths as well. And I had this moment of just like, I was just brought to tears just looking at everyone, just going, I can't even, firstly thinking, why the hell are you people here? But also, I can't believe this. Like, this is a dream for me. And just to be able to be here with these beautiful humans and do these deep practices and sharing in this journey with other humans and to get to do that all the time. It's not lost on me how incredibly amazing that is. And this work, like, it's unbelievable. I never in a million years would have thought that this would be where I would kind of end up. And I'm so grateful because I was not headed down a good road. It was just so trashed all the time. And when I think about, mostly I'm teaching people how to have a relationship with themselves, a caring, nurturing relationship with themselves. And when I think about myself drinking and the level to which I was drinking and doing drugs, there was no care for myself there at all. It was self-loathing. It led to more self-loathing. I treated myself so poorly. No love for myself. Gosh, it brings me to tears now. And to now, I just, there's no self-harm. Look, occasionally I have the odd thought, which isn't helpful, but I can kind of see that now. But it's so far from where I was. I can't even. And I just think, oh, no glass of wine, no person, nothing is worth ever going back to that. And that's what keeps me going. It's just that I can
Yes.
never go back to that self-harm, that level of self-harm, even though at the
Ugh.
time I thought I was just having a good time.
If I go back 10 years, I was in such a different place in my life. And today I was having a really up and down day mentally, but I went out to the garage and I lifted some weights and like, did I want to? No, but it was certainly a tool that was available to
Yeah.
me and kind of get those endorphins going. And it did not involve grabbing a glass of wine and drowning that out. I mean, over 8 years, everything that I have in my toolbox today, I have all these little stickies with different things I can go do because sometimes when you're in it, you're like, okay, I'm paralyzed in this emotion. But yeah, whether that's a really soft yoga practice, sitting on my meditation cushion, going out and walking. There's a ranch nearby that we have a membership to. And so I can go and use hundreds of acres of trails and just
Wow.
go
Oh,
walk. And
wow.
one of the things I remember from doing some somatic experiencing years ago was also noticing the good. So you might notice that pit, but then like right now, of course, because I love being around you, my cheeks feel full and like there's so you
Yeah.
think about the feeling sensations of good feeling. And if you're out walking,
Yeah.
it's how does that sun feel like? Oh, it's it's hitting this cheek, so it's warm on this cheek. Yeah,
That's
tuning into those
beautiful.
things in your body. And I
Yeah,
have
it's
this
gorgeous.
amazing, very full toolbox. I learned even more when I went to be with you and all of the beautiful women that were on that retreat that we were
Yeah.
at
Yeah.
in 2024
Yeah.
with you and Mark and just yeah, breath work and body scans and taking that time out. And I'm hosting a couple of retreats this year in the States and it's
Oh,
just hard to when you take that time out and you get there, you're like, oh, how was this even a question of making this decision? But,
yeah.
and I know there's finances and people to watch the kids and all the things, but
Yeah.
it's just such a reward. So, oh, if someone has the chance to go on a retreat with you in beautiful locations, it was such a rewarding experience for me. So,
I'd love to come
people
on one of
are.
yours. I try and go on at least one retreat a year of someone else's just to go and not teach and be a part of someone else's, just learn and be nurtured and looked after. If you have the means to be able to do it, I usually find a retreat and I'll just pay it off throughout the year if I don't have the funds immediately and, make it happen that way. Oh, I'd love to do one with you. I'll have to keep my eyes out there and come over and hang
Yes,
out with you. That'd be
yes.
gorgeous. Where are they?
I have one that's in Texas that's going to be passed by the time we publish this this episode
Mhm,
actually,
mhm.
but then June I'm north of Lake Tahoe. My husband is going on a bucket list cattle drive. So we're flying to Reno, Nevada. He's going to go do his 5-day cattle drive like City Slickers the movie come to life, and I'm
Love
hosting a
it.
retreat. I rented a luxury Airbnb in the mountains and
Ah,
still looking for the fall for a venue to maybe do a writers focused retreat because I love
gorgeous.
helping women who want to do something but they're afraid to do it, and whether that's write a book or start a business or I had a yoga studio for 2 years, so that thing that you want to do but you think, oh, I can never do that, I can help you do that. It's part of why the podcast is called Rock the Damn Boat, because you just have to do it. You just have to seize the moment, rock the boat, and do
Yeah,
what you
and do
want.
be brave enough sometimes to step into that unknown. Just like Ash with him, like he was resistant, of course, and he was probably a bit scared deep down. It's not even really like about working towards that so much as it's taking the steps to get there. It wouldn't have mattered if he didn't end up playing at the Forum, sold out or not, but it was all about the processes in which he took to get there, and it was super, super scary at first. But if you just do one little thing each day to start changing things up and not being the same person. Because if you want to change your life, you have to change your life. There's no other way to it. Like, you cannot stay the same, doing the same thing every day and expect change. So starting super small, just change, like rocking your own boat. Like,
Yeah.
if that could be a great journaling practice, in fact. Like, how am I going to rock my own boat a little bit today? What can I do? Even if it's just like asking someone if, sometimes you go, like, I'm seeing this good physiotherapist at the moment because I hurt my knee snow plowing in Canada, not skiing, snow plowing. And I really like her and I really want to ask her out on a friend date. Watch this space, because I'm like, I really should ask her out for a friend date, like go for a coffee. And it's probably not professional, so I don't know if she'll be able to. But I think I'm going to ask her anyway. And that's something that would rock my own boat, because I wouldn't normally put
Yes.
myself out like that. You know what I mean? So just little things every
Yes,
day.
absolutely.
Like,
That's one of
doesn't
the
have to be big.
suggestions I give women
True.
sometimes is to ask a coworker to lunch or ask somebody to coffee. I was working with an ADHD coach in the UK, and we've become such like kindred spirits. Now we just have coffee dates. I finished my program with her to learn, and now we're just, professional or not, it might lead to a fun new friendship. So
Oh, totally.
you
And it's
never know.
interesting when you feel that resistance to anything to kind of go, oh, maybe this is my cue to lean into that. So I'm a redhead, so I've got like blonde eyelashes and eyebrows. And so my thing for me is like forcing myself. I remember I did this for a week of going to Coles, this local supermarket, every day without putting mascara and eyebrows on. Because it's just something I never do, Christy. And it sounds ridiculous, but I would do it and just go out and just be me and just talk to people. And it sounds so small, but for me, that was such a big deal. And it helped my confidence no end, because I just had to be me and accept it. And like, and no one gives a shit whether or not, like my eyes look a bit small or whatever. And I know it sounds simplistic, but those small things that we can do every day to just kind of, rock. That's what a great, rock the boat, rock your own boat. Love it. Bloody awesome.
Yeah, it is. And those little things, I mean, if you look at the neuroscience behind it and it starts to develop those new pathways, and what felt so scary will not feel as scary, or maybe eventually not feel scary at all. So you think about, things like stage fright, and you can overcome it. I would not have pictured myself being able to hop on camera and host a podcast if you looked at me 10 years ago. Absolutely not. No way. But I'm loving it. And I'm loving having conversations with women like you. And I'm so glad that you could join me today. I didn't prep you, but I always like to ask my guests who their boat rocking role model is. So who models that for you?
Jeepers. Well, I just say this, Tony Robbins. I went to Florida and I did his business mastery course. This is I was sober actually, very early. And the guy's just, his energy is so awesome. Like, he's definitely one of them. And in terms of rocking the boat, like there's other people I would have that like I'd say really nurturing, but no, definitely Tony Robbins, and perhaps Michael Singer as well. He's like my wise sage. Do you know him, Michael Singer?
I don't.
Oh my God. He wrote The Untethered Soul, and he's got an incredible podcast. Oh gosh. And I listen to him most days. And anytime I'm feeling a bit crappy or anything really, I'd land on the exact episode I'm meant to hear. And I'll tell you the other one, Mel Robbins at the moment. I just read her book.
Oh, yes.
It was a while ago. I've read it now. She's awesome. Like that whole let them theory, let them and let me. Wow. That was
absolutely.
unreal. Yeah.
She is one that I listen to her podcast often. But I think the other two are great. I will give links to Michael Singer and, well, not that anyone needs a link to Tony Robbins, but you're right. I think one of the core reasons I started the show was for recovering people pleasers like me. And so anytime we are telling ourselves like, oh, I can't do something because whoever in my life is not going to approve or whatever, it's like, no, Tony Robbins is very much about going out and grabbing that dream. So
in our first year of sobriety, I read the book Awaken the Giant Within, and I did a lot of the practices from that book because before I quit drinking, I would have really bad panic attacks, probably at least 3 a week, quite debilitating, like heart racing, thinking I'm going to die or go mad or never sleep. It was really full on, and I was very negative. So I was always ruminating for days and couldn't sleep sometimes in case, if someone didn't speak nicely to me, or if one of my family members had an issue with me, I would be awake for 5 days sometimes, just hardly sleeping. And I did everything he said in that book, and writing down lists of what I will and won't tolerate anymore. And all those things really helped me, give me a bit of a foot up my own ass to kind of get me moving and get out of the state that I'd been in for so long. And I really needed that. And then after that, I needed real nurturing and but in that phase, I needed a kick up the bum, and it was awesome. It was really awesome for that.
Yeah. Yeah. There is a time and a place for both. And
Yeah.
so, like you said, especially as we're coming into this season where we need to stop being the rushing woman. So I'm
Yeah.
definitely going to look into that one. But
Yeah.
Danni, this has been an amazing conversation. I just remember sitting with you in Bali and getting to meet you in person for the first time, and what a wonderful experience that was. And I hope that anyone who is listening who has a desire to travel to Bali or Australia to retreat with you, that they take advantage of that, and they can find you. I'll link to the website, but if you want to share the website.
Yes, it's iquitalcohol.com.au is the website, and
Okay.
all the retreats are listed there. I think all the ones this year are sold out, but next year I've got one going to Thailand for the first time, which will be awesome.
Okay, well, there, I just put that on my list. That's going to be my manifestation, and because that has been on my list for a very long time.
The Thailand one will be good too, because it's more about having fun. Like if there's quite a few people who've done a lot of retreats with me before going on this one, so we're going to do some food tours and really fun practices.
Yeah.
And but likewise, I can't wait to hear about what you're doing. I might try and get over to America.
I'm excited because Tahoe is rock the damn boat energy. So it's like I would normally do more of the soul nourishing mindfulness work, and it's not that we won't do that on that retreat, but it's also like, okay, how do you need to set boundaries a little stronger, or how do you need to how do you need to step out of your comfort zone? So I'm excited to explore where this goes. But
that's awesome.
I am so grateful for you coming on the show. I will link to in the show notes for everyone to find you. Of course, they can listen to 365 episodes of How I Quit Alcohol coming up on that. So amazing.
Thank you, Christy. Thank you so much for having me on. I'd love to get you back on the podcast as well. It would definitely be a good
I would
time
be
for an
happy
update.
to give an update.
Yeah, it was a while ago since you
that.
came on. Amazing. Thank you, and thank you for everything that you're doing. I'm really excited that you've got a podcast going, and just you're such a beautiful human. So, and anyone who would get to be on one of your retreats would be a very lucky person as well, just to be around that good energy that you put out. It's absolutely gorgeous.
Thank you so much. Well, you've heard it. You've got multiple places to be around good energy, and thank you so much for listening to the show.
Thank you. See you soon.
You've been listening to Rock the Damn Boat, a podcast produced and recorded by Christy Hughes. You can follow, subscribe on both Apple and Spotify, and your 5-star review goes a long way. Thank you so much for your support of the show.